Right. Sketch the curve y equals 2 over x squared. It's a great way to start a video, isn't it? Just saying, right. What does that mean? Spawned it now. It's rubbish, this one. It's getting worse. Right. Let's draw the sketch of the curve. Y equals 2 over x squared. I mentioned this to you before the exam. I showed you a booklet, didn't I? I may even have shown you this booklet. And I said, there was a big blank space with no axes written in it. And there's a clue there sometimes when they don't write the axes. If it's just going to be a kind of really obvious pair of kind of symmetrical axes like this, then they'll probably draw that for you. This one here, this graph, because it's an x squared one in there, everything is on the top, above the x-axis. So you could have drawn it without that bit down there, couldn't you? You could have just drawn your graph like that, and it would have been fine. It's quite nice to draw it like that. We know that 1 over x would be a graph that goes like that. That would be 1 over x, wouldn't it? But this is supposed to be 1 over x squared. Actually, it's 2 over x squared. So it's 1 over x squared, but stretched in that direction. So all we're looking for is a curve that does that. Because of the alignment of my board, I've not drawn it terribly symmetrically. Oh, now I have. Look at that. What we're looking for is a graph that is in those two quadrants only, that has asymptotes at the axes, that doesn't curve back up again, and that is basically symmetrical. Now, there's a lot, for only 2 marks, there's a lot for you to go wrong with that. The one that I've drawn, I'm a bit worried that almost doesn't look particularly like an asymptote down there. I was a little bit careless with that. We've got to make sure that these don't end up curving back round again. I think I'd probably give myself 2 marks for that one. But it, you've got to try and get it done really well. One of the things I saw quite a lot of was quite a few people misinterpreted what the 2 means. If it was 1 over x squared plus 2, then that would be this graph moved up 2 units. And that would have an asymptote of 2. A few people had incorrectly drawn in an asymptote there like that, and tried to make it look like there was an asymptote of 2, but there isn't. So you needed to lose a mark for that. The asymptote would be the x-axis and the y-axis. And that was your 2 marks. You're not going to lose marks for it, but just for completeness, label your axes for putting in the right place, and label your graph as well. Just to be neat. Right, part 2. The curve, this curve, is translated 5 units in the negative x direction. Find the equation of the curve after it has been translated. Well, we know about this. This is the negative x, the x direction is the inside brackets bit. We talked about the f of x plus a or f of ax. So it's got to be something that happens to x before anything else happens to it. So it's going to be inside this squared bracket. So the answer to part 2, it should be y is 2 over, and it's the negative x direction. Remember, it goes the opposite way round if it's happening to x. So it should be 2 over x plus 5 all squared, or 5 plus x all squared. Either way is okay. One thing to check with this one has an asymptote at the y-axis when x is 0. So there's obviously a problem here when x is 0. Try and put 0 into there, we're doing 2 divided by infinity. If it's moved 5 units in the negative x direction, that asymptote, that problem, must now happen when x is minus 5. So it's moved 5 across. So check, if x is minus 5, do we find ourselves divided by 0? We do, don't we? We still have the same problem. So we must have got that equation right. If you've got an equation and you want to check it's right, do that check on it just to make sure. So a really common answer that people had, quite a few people wrote 2 over x squared plus 5. Quite a few people wrote that, but check it. If x is minus 5, that doesn't give you a problem, does it? That would just be it would be 5 plus 2 25ths. So there's no issue with that. So check your answer to make sure it makes sense. Part 3, describe a transformation that transforms the curve y equals 2x squared to the curve y equals 1x squared. It's a bit weird, this, isn't it? Because it's kind of the opposite way around to what we used to. Loads of people recognise that we've multiplied by something to get from there to there. We've actually multiplied by a half. But if we're multiplying by something, it's a stretch. So you've got your 1 mark for writing stretch. And then what we need to write, we've multiplied it by a half, haven't we, to go from there to there. So it's stretch, scale factor a half, parallel to the y-axis. That is what we want for our answer. That's the best way of writing it, probably. You could also have got the right answer by saying a stretch scale factor 1 over root 2 parallel to the x-axis, because that would produce the same effect, but I don't think anybody tried that. Okay, good work.